Episode 2. I'm Mario Fernandez.
Shane Cole.
Today we actually have a very special guest. We actually have to hire, some extra help today, so we wanted to take a shout out to Alex. We brought in a special producer director for today because it's a very important special episode. So, you want to go ahead?
Here we go. Episode 2, Dr. Jean.
All right, Shane, you want to tell us?
Before we bring her on, in the spring of 2014, I was fortunate enough to travel with local legend, Dr. Jean Barbanente, and another local legend, Judy Vitoriti Lynch. We were in Italy in the spring of 2014, like I mentioned. So all the kids, we had 17 kids with us, were all down at breakfast. Myself, Judy, all the kids down there. Dr. Barbanente was running a little bit late. She was jet lagged, no doubt, just like the rest of us. But when she came in like 5 minutes late to breakfast. We're all sitting down there having a good time. The chant started. And the chant from the kids was, Barbs, 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 Barbs. So,
hey, that's our chant for today. So,
So
as we welcome her in
Dr.
with some...
Barbanente, it's great to have you, and welcome to the living room, local legends.
We have some Iddles for you, so you can get a little more comfortable.
Nice.
So, yeah, we want to start off by thanking you for coming out. And we just want to throw it out to you right away. Tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you grew up, where you went to high school, things that you might have been involved in high school, maybe even in college, whatever you want to share with us.
Sure. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
That was
thanks
quite
for
an
coming.
introduction.
I know
forgot
that
about
you are a busy lady, so we appreciate you being here.
So this is my 27th year in the district, and I came from Addison Trail. I started here career-wise, but in terms of where I grew up in Park Ridge on the edge of Addison Park. I'm the youngest of my family, so my family came from like Elmwood Park area, so my grandparents, my cousins, aunts, and uncles all were in Elmwood Park, and we lived on a street that was all Italian families in Park Ridge. We all kind of migrated from the same place, and so my backyard was Addison Park. Went to Maine South High School, and in terms of what I was involved in, so I was pretty involved musically. I played the violin, I was in choir, music theater, that type of thing. But I was a cheerleader, and also Maine South had a dance drill team called Hawkettes, and so I did that for a few years. I know.
I
right?
never knew that.
I
I've known you for 27 years.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
I never knew that either. That's awesome.
That's great.
Yep. I have some funny stories about that, but that's maybe for another time.
Episode 3.
Episode 3. So, but I was always pretty involved, like with languages, right? I love studying languages, and so in college I studied abroad twice actually. Once in Italy, once in Spain, and chose to study languages, and that kind of opened up that path, to education, and didn't think that path was going to lead to a superintendency at some point, but that was kind of where it started, I guess.
Where in Italy did you study abroad, and if you could tell us a little bit about that experience?
Sure. So I studied abroad in Florence. I lived in Florence that was through Dominican. I started at University of Iowa, and I transferred to Dominican University and graduated from there with undergrad. And
Those are different places.
those are very different places, very different. So part of what drove that decision was I wanted to get Illinois licensure, and I was certifying to teach Italian and Spanish, and there aren't a lot of Italian programs in Iowa. So that was part of the reason coming back this way, and that opened the door. I was able to student teach at Maine West and kind of go back to an area that had the language combinations that I needed and all of that. So studied in Florence first, and then the next year went back to Europe, studied in Spain on the north coast in a city called Santander, which was quite an experience, no doubt.
There's not a lot of Italian programs overall, and Addison happens to be a very unique place that we still have an Italian program, and I want to tell a little story too. So as an alumni, I came from Indian Trail, went to Addison Trail, and my freshman year I recall getting dropped off in my dad's blue minivan.
Yeah.
Me and a couple of my buddies, and I was like, so embarrassed to come to school in a minivan, but I was like, all right, this big place. I'm excited to come to high school. And, I walk to class. My first hour class is Italian 9, and I'm greeted by this person right here.
Oh my! Wow.
Okay.
Yep.
You were Miss D'Alessandro before at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And so, full disclosure, this is a picture from '97 when you started your first year.
96, 97.
96,
yeah.
97.
Yeah.
I had you 96, 97, and then also the following year. But you were D'Alessandro and then Barbanente the second year. But you were the first face I ever met in high school as a teacher. So, can you tell us a little bit about your life as a teacher here at Addison Trail and how that compares to life as an administrator?
Sure. I started in January of '95, and I came in. It was the first year of the Italian program, and I was student teaching in the fall at Maine West, and there had been this opening that came available in the middle of the year for Italian-Spanish combo. And so I walked in, took over in January, and the first semester was rough. It had been, the students had like 7 different substitute teachers before I got there, or something along those lines, and so it was a rough start, I will say, for me.
Brand new teacher.
Brand new, yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, fresh meat.
You got it. That was it. So I didn't have enough tools, I guess, at that point, So from there, I was in the world language department for almost 8 years, and I loved teaching. Taught mostly. Always had a combo Italian and Spanish, taught upper level Spanish, and typically second year Italian, and loved it. That for me, the language instruction was it was a passion of mine, and just really the teaching the literature, the culture, and that was before we even did trips, right? In those days, later on, then we even got to participate in the in both the Italian exchange trip and the Spain trip. Mm-hmm. That we did with Addison Trail and Willowbrook, and those were absolutely the highlights of my career for sure. From there, went to the guidance office. So I did a degree in counseling, and Dr. Helton, when he came in as principal, he hired me actually as the guidance director, and I had not been a counselor. I had not been a counselor yet, but I was hired as the guidance director in 2002, and was also the ESL counselor. So started working a lot with Latino families here in the community, and that was the early part of kind of our parent outreach to the community, and so was able to be a part of the beginnings of a lot of the programs, a lot of interventions and programs that we have here now, everything from the GOLD program to even the early days of PBIS and the Blazer Pride initiatives. Those are things that I was able to be a part of in those days. And then in 2006, I went to district office as a director, and it was an unusual combo. In those days, we had human resources and student services was a combined position, and so started there. Also in January, was brought over early to do some transitioning, and so very different. District office has it's different feel. You're not with the kids, different pace. You don't have the energy of the building. It's a lot more lonely, I would say, in many ways. But
it's not the dark side, but
I guess it's kind of great. I mean, that's probably how it's referred to, right? So
but there's a lot of good people there.
There
are a lot of good people there. So I will stick up for the people at district office. There are good people there. So some of those people are, I consider my friends too. So after all these years.
Absolutely, and it's critical work. It's stuff that happens obviously behind the scenes. People don't realize, but it's important work. Mm-hmm. And so from there, while you don't have the contact with the kids every day and with the staff, you're in a position of influence, right? So you've got the ability to make decisions that will impact the system, and authorize, programming and things that are necessary. And so there's that part of it was, it has been, I would say that's the highlight of the leadership end of it. Yeah. You've got the authority to do what's right, like do what needs to be done for kids and for the staff. So that part has been pretty rewarding, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, the people behind the scenes never get the credit anyways.
No.
So.
And that's okay.
You'll hear all the complaints, but
Yeah.
you'll never get any of the credit. So,
Yeah.
but we appreciate the, the time that you've been a district officer. I could speak for myself, so, and you've always had kind of an open door policy too, like, hey, you got a complaint, pick up the phone call.
Yeah.
So,
And
or.
they will.
And people do, yeah,
No,
but that's
good.
okay.
That's
I
good.
mean, at least
Yeah.
you have a voice,
Mhm.
so, yeah.
Absolutely.
So you kind of alluded to this a little bit in your response, but the differences between being at the district office and being here in the building. What's something that you miss about being in the building?
It's the kids.
Mhm.
It's being around the students. So that's like the upside. We have to make sure that we get that time in the buildings, so that you see, we're doing all this work behind the scenes, but when you see how it affects, the students directly, and when students are given opportunities where they can, succeed and accomplish what they have in their, dreams and goals, and that's the reward,
Mhm.
right? So, but when you're at, obviously when you're separated from that, it is harder. You don't have that. There's like an imbalance. You
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
have that that interaction. So, I would say that's the hardest part about leaving the building.
Mhm.
And but at the same time, there is it is for me at that stage, I was raising a family, and so there was some, there's a different flexibility too that comes with that kind of work, and so it worked for my family at that time, and I'm thankful. I'm really grateful that I had that opportunity at the time when it came. I think that was a God thing for me.
Mhm.
So really thankful for that.
Awesome, thank you for sharing that.
And so I'll go back to 8 years ago now that we were in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
One of my takeaways from that was that you were so excited to be around the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you remember but I remember that from 8 years ago, like you talking about, man, it's so great to be around kids again, and I think that's, for you to go, I mean, as a district office administrator, I mean, that would have probably never happened, but since you knew the language and you do have family in that area still, you're like, yeah, I'll go. So, and it was great being around the kids, and that's one of my takeaways from that trip, besides all the beauty of that place, is you being able to hang out with the kids again and seeing how special they are.
Yeah.
And it didn't take them long to warm up to you at all.
No.
So breakfast that morning was proof.
Yeah.
That was like the second day that we were there, and they were already, indoctrinating you in.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, with that, you're super accessible, I mean, this is an example of you're just coming down and, being a guest on our show, and that's really great. But, part of that is, like, you have a really important job that you have in our district, and it's kind of an interesting question, but, what's that like to be in charge, knowing that you're in charge of these two buildings, all these students, all these staff members, that the decisions you make impact all of us? Like, what's that like?
Well, I've been kind of a second in command for most of my career, right? I've been behind the scenes, and when you're in an assistant role, you still have a lot of influence, but there's still that layer, right? You've still got to check in with somebody else, and you're, there's, you're not taking all the, I guess, you've got someone ahead of you in terms of responsibility, and so it's a heavy responsibility. There's no question about it, and I take it really seriously, related to the staff and students and that are in my care, and there's like anything, right? There's good and bad to it. There's certainly the stress and that that weight of the responsibility, but there's that opportunity to have the influence that and make the decisions that feel are right for the organization, and not have to wait. I feel like some of the benefit, I guess, of stepping into this role, having been here a really long time, there wasn't that waiting period of I have to kind of get to know everybody. I had that privilege to already kind of have a feel of what was happening in the schools and what the needs were, and so we were able to to move, I think, and put some things in motion that were necessary. But leading during this time, coming off of a pandemic and this type of a climate was a whole, it was a whole different, it was like an entirely different animal. So I don't know what it's like to lead in like a normal period. You know, this was coming off of a pandemic and a trauma, and the landscape that was changing every week, every 2 weeks.
Yeah,
There were new
yeah,
regulations
crazy.
and how to respond to that, and then trying to bring everyone along. So I try to be as transparent as I can, try to bring everyone with me in my decisions, and communicate as much as I can. And so that's been, it taken me a while, I think, to get that rhythm of how, especially in the communication. You can't communicate too much. There's just so many things happen, and you want everyone to stay with you, But I'm enjoying it. I have to say, obviously the circumstances that I came into were tragic, and it still affects me every day. Losing Dr. Helton is something that I still am grieving. Obviously personally and obviously professionally with the organization. But I know that he would be, I think, proud of the work that we're doing, and I think he would have expected me to hit the ground running and do what needed to be done for the district. So
you took over in charge. You had a sidecar of trauma mixed in with some COVID. So a piece of cake.
Yeah.
How'd you stay so young?
Oh yeah, I don't feel so young. I don't feel so
What
young.
I'm hearing is that there's no days off being the superintendent, and we want to throw kind of a hypothetical at you. Hey, there's a day off. What is Dr. Jean going to do on her day off? Like, what do you enjoy?
So I have two children, and recently, and my husband, who just kind of recently retired from the restaurant industry. So for me, it's all about spending time with my kids. As long as they're willing to spend time with me, I'm all over it. So it's definitely whatever I can do to spend time with them. They are college, and one's in college, one's in graduate school, and so I'm still about hanging with them as much as possible.
Cool.
Yeah.
You talk about having this day off. We also want to, get to know you on a more personal level too, and kind of going along with that. If Shane busted out $500 from his pocket right now and
I
said,
can get it.
Can you get it?
Yeah.
All right, great. We're gonna give you $500, and we want you to spend it today. How would you spend it? That's something that you would do.
It's plane tickets. I'm a traveler. I still, languages are still a big part of my life, and I do my personal life and my family life and my church life. I do a lot of international. Well, before at least pre-pandemic, I used to do a lot of traveling, and a lot of youth trips. I took a lot of kids. I both obviously at work with the Italy and Spain trip, but then in kind of my church life, I've done a lot of mission trips, South America, Brazil. Did a big road trip with a bunch of kids through Europe a few years back.
Ooh,
Road
brave.
trip, yeah, it was
You've done
like
it
4
before.
moms, and this was driving though. This was a tougher.
Like you all had to drive, or
Yeah.
you're taking a bus?
No, we drove it.
And cars are small in Europe, so.
Yeah, well, we rented a 9-pass. I had a 9-passenger van, which is
Ah.
not easy to drive in Europe.
You really
And-
did have the church van.
Yes, but we had like another 4 cars. So it was like 4 moms and like 23 kids, But yeah, for me, it's those experiences that I was able to do with my family, with my kids and their peers, and again, we've been in some tough areas. Like I said, it's mostly like some church-related pieces. But I was able to learn Portuguese, but through that, those experiences, and so if it's up to me, I'm going abroad. Well, you're not going to give her $500, but you know what?
True.
Yeah,
Might be able to get to Ireland.
Yeah, maybe. So, but yeah, absolutely, that's where I go.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. You talked about a little bit about your Italian heritage. Said your husband was in the restaurant business for a very long time. So can you tell our audience a little bit, like, this is a conversation I have with my wife often because she's from Southern Italy, but what's the difference between like food in Southern Italy compared to like Italian American food?
Oh. Wow. So our family, right? Yeah, we're from. Well, my husband's family is from the south. Actually, my family is too. My father's from Bari. In fact, my father's family is from Trujano, which is the sister city of Addison. So that's why that project was really interesting. It was like totally coincidental, but it happens to be that my dad's family's from there. And I would say Italian American food, like American pizza, the way that it doesn't exist in Italy.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Aglio's, if you go Aglio's in Addison, that's probably the closest to Italian style pizza that we have, I think anywhere in the area. And so we come from a tradition of a lot of fish, so it's just you remember Mola,
Yeah,
we went to
yeah.
the dinner, right, the dinner we had there. That's where I even took, Shane even went to the fish market in Mola.
I
Which was
You've
quite
been
an
there too, you said.
experience.
I have been there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
his wife's
yeah.
family's there, from
Yeah.
there, right? So, so that part, it is, it's a lot of fish. There is, I would say, other American, like anything, I would say the pizza is the biggest, I think, myth. People think that's real, authentic, and it's just not. Like that heavy cheese, and that doesn't exist. That's an American thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And the Chicago thing, So.
Cool. So speaking of food,
Mhm.
you want to talk food with her?
No pressure. I have an idea of where you're gonna say, but I might be wrong on this. So, where's the best place to eat lunch in Addison?
You know what? I literally thought about this for a long time last night because I have a long list. Like Addison is a great town to eat in, period, right? So I have like categories. It's like you want to talk Italian delis, you want to talk Italian restaurants, you want to talk.
We might have to just put you. We might just say, hey, you have to pick one.
Oh, I don't know if I could pick one. I don't know. I don't think it's
So
possible.
let's go categories
All
again.
right,
Let's go.
categories,
Whatever
you know?
you share with us, whatever you think. Because in my mind, you pack your lunch every day, and you have silverware, and I never imagined you going out to lunch in Addison. I don't know why, but I know you do. What are those categories, like Italian, tacos, whatever it is?
Yeah, I don't. There's a lot of days I don't eat lunch most days, right? So, but before the pandemic, Scott was he loved the buffets in Addison, right? So we were we used to Aurelio's, Hacienda, Benuti's. We used to go to Benuti's buffet a lot, and then since then we're not out to lunch that much anymore, but. I love Sereno's Deli. I love Elio's. I love Placita. La Placita.
I knew you were going to say it. I knew it. I knew that name was going to come
Yeah,
up.
I love Placita. And but there's so many options. It is. I do. It's like in the suburbs, the best town to eat in. I think for sure, for sure.
I miss it. I used to live in Addison. Now we live in Wheaton, and my wife and I are always just like, all right, where are we gonna eat? And we're just stare at each other,
Yeah.
I don't know. Addison's got some great places to eat for sure.
For sure.
I have a little game I want to play with you.
Oh boy.
Okay, are you ready?
All right.
It's called the You Pick 'em.
Oh boy.
All right, it's an Italian version of the You Pick 'em, and I'm gonna rapid fire a couple questions to you, and you just answer the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay, you ready? Alfa Romeo or Maserati?
Maserati.
Eros or Andrea Bocelli?
Eros.
Mario's Deli or Sereno's?
Serenos.
Ricotta cheese or bocconcini?
Oh wow. Ricotta.
LeBron James or Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan.
Why?
I'm not that, I can't talk sports with you, okay? Especially basketball, okay? My dad was a football, he was a football guy. We had, season tickets to the Bears, the whole thing. I still can't even talk that much about football. However, Michael Jordan was my era, that was more, so I gotta stick with
Those
him.
were good years.
Yeah.
So speaking of football, well, let's go football, calcio. How do you feel that Italy's not going to the World Cup?
I know.
What's that like at home? Because I know we were heartbroken at our house.
Yeah, there was a lot of my family was pretty devastated, I gotta say. I have in terms of family members and in-laws, I've got obviously a lot of Italians. My brother-in-law is from Spain.
Oh boy.
Yeah, my brother's from Spain, and We have a lot of, family members and close friends that are Brazilians. So so soccer is a big deal. It's a big deal around our house. But there was a lot of I have a lot of sad brother-in-laws. Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of arguments, football-related
It's pretty
arguments.
intense. Yeah, my father-in-law took it very hard, I will say.
And especially after they just won the Euro Cup.
Right.
And then to not make the World Cup,
Yeah.
it's just like, what are we doing? What are we
What
watching?
happened there? Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
So
no,
he's
that's
really sad, for
cool,
sure.
Cool. We're good?
Yeah.
Do we have any other
You got the
questions?
la-
Do
you
you have
want-
any questions for us?
Any questions for us?
Questions for you. So, tell me about this project that you're doing.
Oh,
Wow, we weren't even ready for that.
no, it caught me off guard.
Well,
Good thing I sent you an email, like what it's kind of for. So, you and I have been here 27 years in the district. It was kind of Mario's brainchild, because we talk podcast, him and I sometimes, and I have my favorite podcast that I watch, a Showtime special. It's with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. So it's one I watch all the time, and they bring on these famous people, and it's like, man, these are good stories. And those are two NBA guys, but the people they bring on, a lot of NBA guys, but they don't talk a lot of NBA. They just talk about stuff, so with the release of the first one with Kendrick, I got so many comments in the building like, hey, you know what, that was fun. Because I didn't know that about him, or I didn't know that about you, or I didn't know that you guys went back so far. So I think it's just a chance to just kind of share our stories and hey, we're human beings. You know what I mean? And I don't know, I've taken a lot of joy talking about this and coming up with the questions, even though they're super simple. But again, it's, I'm a people person, so stories and people are important to me, and I think Mario feels the same way. So I know you feel the same way. So that's kind of why we do it. And the feedback from the staff has actually been kind of positive, like, oh wow, no political agenda. We're not talking one side or the other. We're just talking, and that's fun. So.
That's great. I'm honored that I was guest number 2.
Yeah.
Well, to tell you the truth, we kind of just jumped in on the deep end of the pool for episode 2.
Yeah.
We said we got to get something. We got to get someone great. Not that Kendrick was awesome, but we're like, let's get Dr. Barbanente in here, and we're just so happy that you said yes. We came up with a list, and we're like, we got to get Dr. B in here. So. We're so thankful that you were here. I hope everybody kind of gets a different perspective on you and your job and what you do. And on a personal note, you're one of the smartest people I know, and you're one of the most humble people I know, and we really love working here with you. So.
Yeah, and there's a lot of staff out there that's new that they don't know you. They didn't know you. They don't know that you worked here in the world language department, foreign language department at the time it was. So yeah. Are you going to ask the last question?
That's your question, so you can ask it.
Yanni, you know Yanni, right?
I do.
Live at the Acropolis or live at the Coliseum?
I told you she would answer that way. I told you she would answer that
Come
way.
on,
For the record.
I mean, the Coliseum. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we've been there together.
We have been there together.
So.
That's true. That's true.
Awesome. Well,
So.
Dr. Barbanente, thank you so much for your time, and we're going to leave you with some Eros, even though you said Andrea Bocelli was better. So.
No, it was Addison.
Oh, was it Eros?
Yeah.
Did she just Eros?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll leave you with La Cosa Más Bella. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.